Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I'm coming to you with a full face of makeup on, which is different than what I normally do. And that's because in this video, I'm going to be creating 3 looks using the Colourpop and KathleenLights So Jaded eyeshadow palette. The 3 looks that I chose are first a super easy everyday makeup look. It's actually my go-to everyday look using this palette. The second one I wanted to create is a more glamorous look using tones that a lot of us are comfortable with. And then the third look is this right here. I wanted to play with tones that might be a little bit out of some people's comfort zone. It's definitely something that was out of my comfort zone, but I love how the look turned out. I love how all 3 looks turned out. So I hope you guys are excited for the video. There will be timestamps linked down below if you want to skip to a certain look. And also all the products will be linked down below and broken down per look so that it makes it really easy to find the products that I use to complement each of the looks that I created. You guys, I absolutely love this palette. There are so many things you can do with it, and I know so many of you guys picked this palette up. I actually already did do one video using this palette where I created a really pretty, soft, ethereal look. If you haven't seen that yet and you would like to see how I created that, I will go ahead and link that down below. Let's not waste any more time. We'll just get right into the first makeup look. Okay, so for the first look that I'm going to be doing with the palette, I'm going to be doing something that's more like of an everyday look. In order to make sure that this video wasn't an hour and a half long, I decided to do my complexion products off camera. So I've already done my foundation, concealer, powder, bronzer, highlighter, and brows. By the way, every single look will be broken down in the description box down below. But I'm really excited to show you this eye look because I actually traveled with this palette last weekend, and this is my go-to everyday eye look that I've been doing. So I like to start off with the shade Royal Jewels. I don't know why that's kind of hard for me to say. Royal Jewels, Royal Jewels. I don't know why it's like painful for me to say that. I don't know. And I start with this shade and I just start to really just buff it into the crease and a little bit above as the transition shade. Normally when I do more glam looks, I do the eyes first, but like I said before, this has actually been what I've worn on a pretty much a daily basis, at least last weekend, and I always did my complexion first and I had no issues with fallout with these particular shades. It's such an easy look. So I'm just building that up on both of the eyes, and if it gets on the eyelid a little bit, that's fine. We're going to be layering up another shadow, so it really won't matter. I'm going to take that same brush, tap off the extra, and just pinch it and run it across the entire lower lash line. And now that there's less product on the brush, I am just taking the brush on its own and running that across the entire lower lash line, and then kind of connecting it to the existing shadow right here. I'm not being too precise with this. You really can't mess it up with this shade. I'm just going to do the same thing on this eye. Now that we have the general shape blocked out on both eyes, this is where we start to layer up a little bit. I'm going to take Rose Quartz, which is probably one of my favorite shades in the palette so far. I haven't worn every single shade yet, but this is one that I really do find myself reaching for on a daily basis. So I'm just going to go ahead and run that through the crease just to add a little bit more depth. I'm not going to bring it much higher than the crease though. I'm going to try to keep it pretty much directly into the crease just to add a little bit more depth. And in the end, it's going to really help the third shadow that we apply blend into the other 2 existing shadows. I'm just going to take a tiny bit of that and run it across the lower lash line as well. This look is seriously so easy, but I think it's so pretty. All right, next we're going to use the shade Geodude, which is the shade that really is kind of the star of the show with this look. I'm going to take that on a flatter brush. This is the Morphe M433, and I tapped off the extra just to try to avoid as much fallout as possible. And this is going to be our all over shade, or all over lid color, I guess I should say. I just like to build this up starting at the lash line, and then as there's less product on the brush, I bring it up to the crease and kind of blend it into those 2 existing shadows that we had on before. I don't take it higher than the crease though, and I really like to build this up a couple of times, especially along the lash line. I just love this shade. It's such an interesting brown. It almost has like a yellow undertone, but it's still so wearable, especially for an everyday look for fall, in my opinion. So I'm just continuing to build that up, and I'm going to take that same brush, tap off the extra, and just pinch the brush. This is my way of saving a lot of time. I feel like when you're doing an everyday look, you usually don't have too much time to get ready every day. So I like to cut corners where I can, but I'm just keeping that really close to the lower lash line and blending it out on the edge as well. I just love that color. And I'm going to do the same thing on this eye. I'm just lightly dusting that brush over everything just to make sure it's all nice and blended along the edges. I seriously am obsessed with this eye look. I've also been using this eyeliner. This is optional, but for an everyday look, I kind of like having a little bit more of a bright waterline. This is the Wet n Wild Ultimate Brow Highlighter, and I'm just gonna add that to the waterline. This is totally optional. You could also add like a brown liner if you wanted to. Before I add mascara, I'm gonna dip into this shade right here called Pearl. This makes a great inner corner highlight for every day, and this is what I've been using when I wear this look. You could totally keep it matte, and you could use the shade My Precious, which is just the matte ivory shade in this palette, and you could use that as your inner corner if you want something a little more subtle. But I like a little bit of something shimmery in the inner corner, and then I'm gonna do the same thing with the same shade on the brow bone, just using what's left on the brush. Next, I've been loving to use the Colourpop BFF mascara in brownie points. You guys know I've been talking about this quite a bit, but I just feel like the brown mascara really adds to the tones on the eyes. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply this to the top and bottom lashes. I do about 2 coats on the top lashes and about 1 coat on the bottom. Okay, so the mascara is on. I do have a little bit of mascara marks that got on the lid. I'm gonna wait for those to dry. I'm gonna just kind of tap down the lip balm that I have on my lips. I want my lips to be moisturized, but not too moisturized because I need the lip liner to stick. I like to pair this eye look with the 90s Supermodel lip liner from KKW Beauty. So I'm just gonna go ahead and line and fill in the lips with this. I have been loving this lip liner. And then I layer that with the KKW Beauty 90s Supermodel lipstick, which is slightly lighter, but it goes perfectly with this lip liner. And I just apply it right here and right here on the lips. And then I use my finger to blend that in. I'm just dusting off any mascara marks. And then I'm gonna take the Colourpop and KathleenLights blush, and this is the shade, is it Lunar Hazard? I'm pretty sure that's the shade. Again, I will have it linked down below. I can't see the shades now that they're in these cases, but I'm just gonna take that and I'm gonna apply that to the apples of the cheeks. I really like using a neutral blush like this and just keeping the tones pretty monochromatic. It's pretty foolproof for every day, and it just looks really nice in the end. So even though I already did the complexion first, I am gonna step back and assess the situation. And I'm gonna add just a little more bronzer. For this look, I used the Hoola Light Bronzer from Benefit. I've been so into this for every day. I just feel like it adds just the right amount of glow for my skin tone, and it never looks over the top. I think it's beautiful. I'm gonna use the NYX Bear With Me Brow Setter to set the brows. And there you have it. That's the first look. I absolutely love this. I think it leans a little bit grungy, but it's still very wearable and so easy, so it's perfect for every day. I love this look. It's definitely been my go-to with this palette, so I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that. Again, if you guys want to know everything else that's on the face, I will have it listed and linked down below. But let's move into our second look. Okay, so for look number 2, I really wanted to create like a fall glam kind of look. So something that's also gonna be wearable, but I'm creating it with like a special occasion in mind. So I've already done my brows. This time I used the MAC Shape and Shade Brow Tint. And then I've already applied the NARS Tinted Smudge Proof Eyeshadow Base. I haven't set it. It actually sets by itself really nicely. So that's all I've done so far. Let's go ahead and start the eye look. I'm gonna start off with the shade My Precious, and I'm taking that on a fluffier brush. And I'm kind of wanting to add that along the brow bone down to the crease. I just want to make sure that when we blend out the eyeshadows, that it has something really clean to blend into so that it doesn't end up looking too muddy. We're going to be using Royal Jewels again, and I'm just taking that on a fluffy brush, and I'm doing the same thing that we did for the everyday tutorial, and I'm just kind of throwing that into the crease, and then as there's less product on the brush, I'm buffing it up toward that existing shadow that we just applied. We don't need too much of this, but I want enough to where there's a little bit of a gradient from the lightest shade down into this shade, down into the rest of the eyeshadows that we're gonna apply next. I'm actually gonna take that same brush. You could switch brushes if you want, but I'm gonna take a tiny bit of Citrine, which is that gorgeous mustard yellow shade. I'm gonna tap off the extra, and I'm gonna actually layer this right on top to kind of add a little bit more of a yellow undertone into the transition shade area. And I'm just buffing this out for a minute here, just to really make sure that the colors are blending together. I don't want it to be too harsh, so I'm not dipping back into the pan. I'm just really spending my time buffing out what I have on the brush into the crease area. And we're gonna do the same thing on this eye. I like to make sure to buff it toward the end of the brow, and also when there's not too much product left on the brush, I like to buff it in this area here. I picked up a little bit more of the citrine color, and I'm just kind of buffing that right along this area here just to add a slight tint of yellow there. Okay, so far so good. I really like the direction that this is going. Okay, next I'm going to dip into the shade Jade, which is a beautiful olive green color, and we're going to start to build this up on the lid a little bit. So I'm going to start off on the outer third here and just kind of press that into the eyelid. Again, once there's less product on the brush, I'm going to start to bring that up toward the crease a little bit and start to blend it into the existing shadows. But I really want to make sure that most of the pigment is toward the lash line. I'm just continuing to layer that up a little bit. And again, each time that there's less product on the brush, I like to bring it up in the crease a little bit and just blend it in right here really lightly, just to create kind of a nice soft gradient moving up toward the crease. And I'm also making sure to bring this color out toward the edge of the brow a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on this eye. So this color is a little bit difficult to work with. I've been layering it up a few times and I'm just kind of being patient with it and bringing it in toward the center of the eyelid. I'm not too concerned about it looking like this though, because it's not gonna be the only color on the outer portion of the eye, but just something that I wanted to point out. And you can probably see that right there. It's a little bit patchy. I'm hoping that it will all come together once we apply the other shadows. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm gonna go ahead and dip into this shade right here called Tiger Eye. And I'm gonna take a brush, and I tapped off the extra, but I'm just gonna go ahead and start to blend this on the entire inner portion of the top lid, blending it right on top of that olive green shade. Same thing on this eye. I kind of want to see what this shade would look like if I applied it with my finger. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that same color called Tiger Eye, and I'm going to apply it with my finger on the lid. Okay, yeah, I definitely think it looked pretty with the brush, but there is a little bit more of an intensity when you apply it with the finger. That's the case with most shimmers, but I thought I would try both. Okay, so this inner portion is looking a little funny, so I'm just going to take the brush that we were using in the transition area, and I'm going to try to buff that down a little bit. Okay, I really like how those colors are blending together. Next, I'm going to dip into the shade Stoned, and I'm going to take this along the lash line just to define the outer edge a little bit, and then again, once there's a little less product on the brush, I'm going to kind of sweep it into this area here just to kind of create a nice V shape right here. Okay, now that I have the eyeshadows on the lid, I'm going to dip back into Royal Jewels, which is what we used first in our transition area, and I'm going to dust that a little bit higher and start to blend it out a little further. I just feel like now that we have all the shadows on, I think that the eyeshadow could move up a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of buff that in. And I'm going to dip back into Citrine, which is the yellow shade that we used first. I feel like now that we have the other shades, we kind of lost a little bit of that yellow tone. So I'm just going to add a bit of that right here. I really like how that looks. I just think it adds something a little more interesting in the transition area. That's super pretty. Okay, now that all the edges are nice and blended, I'm going to take the shade Topaz, which is a pressed glitter. If you're not comfortable using a pressed glitter on the eyes, you can use the Super Shock shadow in the palette called Diamond. I personally do use glitter on the eyes. I'm just extra careful. So again, if you're not comfortable with it, you do not need to do this step. You can just skip this step. But I'm applying Topaz right on top of where we applied Tiger Eye. And I'm really carefully pressing that into the eyelid. And if a little extra glitter gets up into the crease, I'm just kind of letting it, but I really want to focus that more toward the lash line on the inner corner, but I kind of do want it to fade up into the crease slightly. I'm going to do the same thing on this eye, carefully tapping the glitter onto the lid and layering it as I go. And I'm stopping about 2/3 of the way over. I'm trying to create as much of a gradient with the glitter as possible, if that's possible. Okay, I really love how that looks. I'm going to carefully wipe away any fallout underneath the eyes. And I'm also using the makeup wipe to kind of shape up the outer edge here. I'm going to take my finger and just press down the edges so that it's not too harsh. And then I'm going to pop on some mascara. I'm going to be using the Benefit Roller Lash Mascara. And I'm not going to be worrying about layering the mascara up too much because I do want to wear falsies with this look. If you are not a falsies kind of a person, you could definitely do 2 to 3 coats of your favorite mascara and just try to build it up. Anytime I do more of a smoky eye, I like to build up the lashes because I feel like it completes the look. You can get away with less mascara when there's less on the eyes, but once you do anything where it's a little bit of a darker tone or there's just more going on, I feel like a nice bold lash really helps to complement that sort of a look. I'm actually going to pop on lashes now. These are the Kiss True Volume lashes in the style Ritzy. I used to wear these all the time and then I just never repurchased them after using them. So I ran to Ulta yesterday because I knew I wanted to use them with a bronzy kind of a look. I'm just going to take my Duo 2-in-1 brush on adhesive. And since we're not wearing eyeliner, I'm going to use the clear glue. And I'm going to brush that on the lashes. I'm letting the glue dry a little bit and then I'm just going to pop those on. Okay, so we have one lash on. I love these lashes. I'm not normally a strip lash kind of a person, but for some reason I feel like these really work with my eye shape. They're just the right length. I love the shape of them. And they also have a little bit of brown worked into the lash. Like it's a good mix of brown and black. So it's kind of a softer false lash. I don't know. I love these so much. I'm just going to put on the other lash. Okay, so half the eyes are done. I'm going to quickly move through the complexion portion. Let's go ahead and finish up the eyes. I'm going to dip back into the shade Jade. And I'm actually going to take the same brush that we used on the top lid. I'm going to make sure to tap off the extra. And I'm going to start to buff this along the entire lower lash line, making sure to connect it to the existing shadows on this outer corner. I really like this on the lower lash line, so I'm taking my time just buffing that out a little bit lower than I had initially planned. I just feel like this olive color, even though we did cover it up a little bit with some of the shades on the top lid, I feel like it added something to the overall look, so I really want that same effect on the lower lash line. On a small brush, I'm going to dip into the bronze shade called Tiger Eye. This one right here. And this time I'm actually going to use a setting spray just to wet the brush a little bit. And I'm going to begin layering this up on the lower lash line as well. But I'm keeping this bronze shade a little closer to the lash line than the olive green. And I'm taking that about 2/3 of the way across the lower lash line, stopping right about here. Okay, I'm taking a smaller fluffy brush and I'm going to dip into the Royal Jewels shade. I'm starting with that shade and I'm just going to kind of use that to buff out the edges of the army green shade called Jade, because I really want that to blend into the skin nicely. I'm going to do the same thing on this eye. And I like to make sure that those colors kind of blend up into the existing shadows up here. And then I'm going to dip into the mustard yellow right here called Citrine. And I'm just going to take the tiniest amount of that and kind of like what we did up here, I'm just going to add that right about here on the lower lash line, buffing it up into the existing shadows and then down a little bit right here. I just think that yellow and olive green together looks so pretty. Ooh, that was a little much. Hopefully we can blend that out a little more. Whoopsies. I think that looks really cool. All right, I'm gonna go in with the shade Stoned, and I'm taking a small brush again. And with that shade, I'm just gonna really deepen up the outer third of the lower lash line, making sure that it connects to the existing shadows on this corner here. I think that really completed the look. For the waterline, I really wanted to use this Thrive Cosmetics Lizzie Infinity Waterproof Eyeliner. It is the most insanely beautiful mossy green color. I love it, and I just felt like it would really complement these tones. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this to the waterline. I'm so obsessed with this. Can you see how beautiful that is? It's so subtle, and especially if you have any green or even hazel in your eyes, even brown eyes. Like every eye color would really look good with this eyeliner in the waterline, I think. But it's just subtle enough to where it doesn't close off the eyes, but oh, I think it's so pretty. Do you see that? I love it. It really brings out any tones of green that are in my eyes, which I love. All right, let's pop on some mascara on the lower lashes. I'm using that same one. It's the Roller Lash Mascara from Benefit. Oh my gosh, I love this eye look so much. I am absolutely loving that. I'm going to quickly do the complexion. I'm just taking my Thrive Cosmetics Ray Bronzer, and I'm going to use that to warm up the skin. And then I'm going to use my Believe Beauty Radiant Finish Highlighter in the shade Champagne Kiss. I love the golden undertone in this, and I thought it would pair nicely with the eye look. So I'm just adding that to the high points of the face. Then I'm going to take this blush right here. This is one of Kathleen's collabs with Colourpop as well, and you guys, I can't remember it off the top of my head, and I don't have the shade available because it's on the back of the pan, so it'll be like down below. And I'm just taking this and I'm lightly dusting this on the front of the cheeks, buffing it backward into the existing highlighter. I'm trying not to use too much of this because it is a pretty pigmented blush, but I did feel like it would complement the eye look. For lips, I'm taking the CoverGirl Exhibitionist Lip Liner. I just took a makeup wipe and wiped off any foundation that was on the lips, but I'm gonna line and fill in the lips with this. Did I say what shade this was? This is in the shade Caramel Nude. I'm going to be layering that with the Almay Lip Vibes lipstick in Go Wild, which is such a good nude pink. I love this color. I'm going to blend that in with my finger. And I'm going to top that with the Patrick Ta Major Glow Lip Gloss in the shade She's Expensive. I'm going to be dipping into Moonstone, and I'm going to use this to highlight the inner corner of the eye. And I'm going to take what's left of that and apply it to the brow bone. And then I really want to take this shade right here called Peridot. And I just want the tiniest bit of this. I'm just using the same brush, but I just want the littlest amount kind of buffed into the inner corner as well. I don't want this to be too intense, which is why I layered it with Moonstone. But I do feel like a little bit of that color looks kind of cool in the inner corner. And I'm actually bringing what's left on the brush and highlighting the inner crease right here, just slightly. And I'm also making sure that it's nice and blended into the lower lash line as well. Okay, I'm just gonna make sure that the complexion looks the way I want it to. I'm gonna set the face, set the brows, and I'll be right back. Okay, so to set the face, I use the Skindinavia Bridal Setting Spray. And then for brows, I use the 24-hour brow setter. Again, everything will be listed and linked down below. So that completes this second makeup look. I absolutely love how this turned out. I'm a little bit bummed that I filmed this second because I don't want to wash it off, but I have to, and I will for you guys so that I can do the third look. But I just feel like this is such a wearable glam look. Most people feel comfortable using bronze tones, so I hope you guys like this look as much as I do. The third and final look is gonna be a little bit more colorful, so I'll let you guys get one last look of this bronze look. Dang it, I really like this one. But we gotta finish the video, so let's move into the third colorful look. Okay, we're ready for our third and final look. I washed everything off. There might still be some glitter pieces on the face, so sorry if you see that. I went ahead and did my brows again. This time I used the Hourglass pencil, and then I used the same exact NARS eyeshadow base to prime the lids for shadow. I'm actually going to start this the same way that I started the last look. I'm going to take the shade My Precious, and I'm just going to buff that right at the top of the eye. Just really make sure underneath the brow it looks nice and clean before we go in with a bunch of colors. Oop, we have a glitter in the brow. There's kind of glitter everywhere at this point. All right, we're going to dip into the shade Rose Quartz, and this is going to be our transition shade for this look. I'm going to be starting to apply this a little bit lower than where I normally apply it so that I can get most of the pigment into the crease, and then again, once there's less product on the brush, that's when I like to take it up and blend it out toward the brow. That way you get a little bit more of a gradient, and I'm going to really work this into the eye just so that it's super blended and there's no harsh lines. I feel like the transition area and the transition shade really sets the tone for the overall look. So that's why I like to spend time blending this out. The more that this first shade is blended, the better the end result is going to be. So I'm just really making sure to build that up and then blend it out. And we're going to be doing a halo eye this time. So I am kind of making sure that the color goes from the inner portion here all the way out to the end of the brow. And I'm going to do the same thing on this eye. This Rose Quartz shade has to be one of my other favorites in the palette. I love so many shades in this palette, but this one is so pretty. I love it. Okay, this is where things might get a little crazy for a second. I'm going to dip into this shade right here called Turquoise. And I'm going to tap off the extra, and I'm going to start to build this shade up, starting with the base of the eyelid and then moving it up toward the crease. And again, we're using that same kind of principle where as there's less product on the brush, then we start to move it up and really lightly blend it into the crease. I also do kind of change the pressure of the eyeshadow. So here I'm really pressing and packing on to get the most pigment. And then as I move up, I start to have a little bit of a lighter hand, and that just kind of helps blend it into the existing shadows without it looking too muddy. And I'm wanting to apply this shade from inner corner all the way to outer corner. This is such a unique shade. I actually don't know if I've ever worn an eyeshadow that's this color. I think it's so pretty. We're gonna do the same thing on this eye. Ooh, man, that's pigmented. That is so pretty. Okay, once I feel like both eyes look pretty even, we're gonna start to shape out the halo eye. I've been dying to use this shade right here. This is the navy blue shade in the palette called Sapphire. And I'm gonna take that on a smaller blending brush. I'm gonna tap off the extra, and we're gonna start to build this color up on the outer and inner portion of the lid, keeping most of the pigment against the lash line. And then once there's less on the brush, we're kind of buffing it over top of that turquoise shade and blending it into the crease a little bit. I'm working in really light layers. I just find that it makes colors or working with colors less intimidating when you just work in really light layers. It's way harder to mess it up. But since we're doing a halo eye, I kind of want to stop the color when it hits the center of the lid. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of navy blue into this inner portion as well. And I like to start with a little bit of product and just kind of buff that in. I really don't add too much product back onto the brush that often. I really try to work with what I have first. I just think that that helps the end result look way better and really blended. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on this eye. This sapphire color is also a color that I don't think I own. I don't know if I've ever put a navy blue shadow on my eyelids, so we're doing turquoise and navy blue today. 2 firsts for me, which is fun. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of open my eye and really lightly dust what's left on the brush right here to kind of connect the navy blue together. Sometimes opening your eyes and blending out the crease a little bit helps to kind of know where to start and stop. But I don't want that to get too high because I'm trying to avoid it getting muddy up where the transition area is. I'm also not too worried about what's going on in this area here because we're going to use a makeup wipe to clean up the edges. So I'm just basically making sure that everything is super blended. Well, this is a really fun look so far. I don't think I've ever done anything like it. Let's go ahead and start to work on the center. I'm going to take the shade Aquamarine, and I'm actually going to take this on my finger, and I'm going to start to apply that on the very center of the eyelid. Ooh, that looks so pretty layered on top of those colors. And it's okay if this isn't perfect. We're going to go back in and kind of touch up the edges. I just basically want the center to have the most pigment, and then I'm using my finger to kind of blend that over top of a little bit of the navy blue shade. But I think this aquamarine color looks amazing layered on top of the teal shade. I'm actually going to take the brush that we used with the teal eyeshadow, and I'm going to blend that along the edges of aquamarine, just so that we don't have any harsh lines from where all the shadows start and stop. Okay, next we're going to go into the Super Shock shadow in the palette called Diamond. And I'm going to take that on another finger. And I'm going to actually press that in the center of the lid as well, just to start to add even more sparkle. This shade is so pretty. I love it. And it kind of got into the crease on both eyes. So I'm going to take the brush that we were using with rose quartz, and I'm just going to lightly dust that. I don't mind if it goes up a little bit, I just don't want it to come up too high. This step is optional, but I wanted to add a little bit of the pressed glitter called Opal. And I'm going to take that on my finger. And I do put the pressed glitters on the eyes. I'm just very careful, like I said before. And I'm just going to go ahead and use that to really emphasize the very center of the eyelid. The shade Diamond really does add a nice effect. So if you don't want to use those, just stop at Diamond. But I do feel like this glitter shade really did add something extra special to the look. I'm gonna do the same thing on this eye. I don't normally do this so early, but I'm going to. I'm gonna take the shade Moonstone, which is a really pretty inner corner highlight that has a little bit of a blue reflect on it. And I'm actually going to add that to the inner corner now. I might have to touch it up later, but I just kind of wanted something in the inner corner right now. And you guys know I really have been into highlighting this inner crease right here. I'm not going to do it too heavily because there is so much going on the eye, but I feel like it just kind of overall completes the look. I'm dipping back into rose quartz with that first brush that we used, and I'm kind of bringing that shade up a little higher. Sometimes when I'm done with the look, I realize that the transition shade could be lifted a little bit. So I just carefully add that at the end, and it usually helps kind of complete the look a little bit more. Also feeling like the navy blue could be brought up on this eye. So I'm just gonna do that. Ooh, this is like cotton candy dreams right here. This would actually work great if you dress up as a mermaid for Halloween. This would be a great makeup look to do. I'm gonna wipe away any fallout underneath the eyes and also use a makeup wipe to clean up the edges here. I'm just using my finger to press down the edges just to make sure they're not too harsh. I'm gonna pop on some mascara. I'm gonna use the Essence Lash Princess False Lash Effects Mascara. And I'm gonna do 2 coats on the top lashes. Okay, maybe not. I'm just gonna do 1 coat because after doing 3 looks in a row, my lashes are a little bit mangled. You could totally layer up mascara. I am actually gonna add some Ardell Demi Wispy lashes. I normally would layer up the mascara, but my lashes are just not looking like they normally do when they're fresh, you know? So I'm just gonna go ahead and pop these lashes on. Okay, lashes are on. We're gonna go ahead and do the face really quick. I'm just gonna wipe off the foundation that got on the lips. But we're gonna go back into the eyes now. I'm gonna take that same brush that we used with the turquoise on the top lid, and I'm gonna go ahead and dust this across the entire lower lash line. I don't want too much product on the brush here. And again, I'm just taking my time blending that out and connecting it to the existing shades on the corner. Okay, next we're going into the navy blue shade called Sapphire, and I'm using that same exact brush that we used on the top lid, and I'm mimicking the same halo effect that we had created on the top lid. So I'm only focusing the navy blue on the very outer corner, and then I'm going to take a little bit more of that and start to define the inner corner with this color. I'm trying to keep this as close to the lash line as possible. If it blends down a little bit, that's fine, but most of the pigment I'm trying to keep right up against the lashes. Same thing on this eye. Before we go any further, I actually think I want to brighten up the waterline. I'm going to take that same pencil that we used in the very first tutorial. This is from Wet n Wild. It's the brow highlighter. I'm just going to run that in the waterline. I just want to make sure that the blue eyeshadows don't make that inner portion of the eye look too red. So I want to make sure that's pretty bright. I'm going to take a small detail brush and we're going to dip into aquamarine. And this is what I'm going to use to really start to define that halo effect along the lower lash line. And I'm kind of dragging that down further than the other two eyeshadows. I just think it looks kind of pretty when the center kind of drops down a little bit. Almost in a triangular shape, but obviously not too harsh. It's more of like a blended triangular shape. Then I'm taking a brush and dipping into rose quartz. And I really want to add some of that pink that we have on the top along the lower lash line. So just taking a bit of that and I'm bringing it right underneath where the blues are. And I'm just going to try to build that up slightly on the lower lash line. Probably should have done this before adding aquamarine, but we can always add a little more. I really like what that does. I think it just helps complete the entire eye look and it makes it look super cohesive. And it also kind of makes that lower lid look a little bit bigger because it kind of looks like there's a shadow there now, which I think is really pretty. So I'm just going to keep building that up and blending it out. Okay, I am going to go back into aquamarine and just layer that up and bring it down a little bit more since we did dust away some of that. And then I'm going to take that same brush. I'm not sure how the brush is going to work in the Super Shock shadow called Diamond, but I'm going to try it. I just want some of that diamond shade right in the center as well. It might work better with my pinky. I'm going to take a little bit on my pinky and press it right here in the center of the lower lash line. Yeah, that's so pretty. Okay, let's apply the Essence mascara to the lower lashes. Okay, I'm going to speed through the complexion. I'm going to take the MAC Subculture lip liner and line and fill in the lips with this. And then for lipstick, I'm taking the Colourpop Luxe lipstick in the shade Tiptoe. And I'm going to tap that into the center of the lips. And then I'm going to take my finger and press it in further, kind of mixing it in with the lip liner. I'm going to let that lip color set a little bit before I add gloss. And while I do that, I'm going to go back into Moonstone, which is what we initially applied in the inner corner. And I'm going to kind of layer that up again and connect it into the lower lash line slightly. And I'm going to take that same brush and apply it to the brow bone. And then I want a little bit more of a pop in the inner corner, so I'm going to go into Pearl. And I'm going to add that right on the inner corner just to give that extra intensity. And I'm kind of doing the same thing where I'm dragging it up a little bit. Not too much, I just really love the look that that gives. I think it just makes everything look nice and polished. I'm going to take the Zoeva Melody Lip Gloss in the shade Radiant Flight. And I'm going to add this to the lips to just make everything on the face super glowy. I love this gloss. I don't think I've ever talked about it on my channel. It is such a pretty gloss though. But I've never actually worn it on top of this lip color, so I'm hoping it doesn't separate. I'm going to press it in a little bit to hopefully help mix all the lip products. Okay, so that completes my final look using the Colourpop So Jaded palette. You guys, I actually really love this look as well. All three looks I really enjoyed creating, and I feel like even though I might wear the first look most, these other two looks are very wearable. Even though this one has a lot of color, I feel like keeping everything else soft allows it to be a lot more wearable, so it's a fun way to play with color, and I love the turquoise and navy. I've never tried out tones like this on my eyes. I've used blues before, but not those exact colors, and I just love the glitter and everything. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below letting me know which look you liked best. I would love to hear from you. Guys, there are still so many other things that I could create with this. I feel like I could make a pure green look, a purple look, a red and orange kind of look, a peach look. There are so many different looks you can create with this palette. If you guys want to see me use this palette more, let me know, and maybe I'll throw it into a full face of nothing new down the road, or maybe in a video where I reuse makeup. I would love to know if you guys want to see more looks. But hopefully this video was helpful for those of you who have the palette, and if you don't even have the palette, hopefully it inspired you to create similar looks using what you have at home. If you're new here, hi, my name is Allie and I would love for you to join the family. You can do so by hitting the subscribe button. And if you're already a subscriber but you want to be notified on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays when I upload, click on the bell after you subscribe and you'll get a notification every single time I post. That's it for today's video. I hope you guys have an amazing day wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Love you. Bye!